Hey everybody, Daniel Amen. What do you do if you have memory problems in your family? So I'm a little worn out. I just got back from Washington, D.C., where I got to meet at the White House, which was so much fun. We talked about the opiate crisis, prison reform, mental health, the shootings, and what can this administration do. And I was very pleased to see that they're really thinking about it. I got to tell them about my new book. Here it is, Memory Rescue. I know it looks backwards, but it's not. Coming out on Tuesday, so I'd be grateful if you got it. And what I've been doing in this series of live chats is talking about how do you keep your brain healthy or even rescue it if you think it's headed for trouble. And how you do that is you prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors that steal your mind. And the mnemonic we're working on is Bright Minds, because if you can remember that, it's a memory device, that it helps you know what to do. And so we've talked about B for blood flow, R, retirement and aging, I is for inflammation, which was super short because I tried to get it in when we were having a fire drill at the White House. That was fun. And today what we're going to talk about is G for genetics. And there are certain genes that make dementia and Alzheimer's disease more likely for you. And the most famous one is called the apolipoprotein E4 gene. So if you have one of those genes, you have a 2.5 to 5 times increased risk. If you have two of them, you actually have a 10-fold risk. And so it's really important, if you have it in your family, to know it, and then to know that having the gene is not a death sentence, should be a wake-up call to get serious about being healthy. Hey, Dustin, how are you? So nice to see you on my page. Somebody's asking about Huperzine, which we actually talk under our retirement and aging, because Huperzine A helps to boost acetylcholine, somewhere between 100 to 400 micrograms a day is what we see in the studies. So, but back to G. You have this in your family. Some people get fatalistic about it, and they go, oh, well, there's nothing I can do, so live it up. It's one way to attack it. In my mind, like I have heart disease in my family, I have obesity in my family, and I don't have heart disease and I don't have obesity. Why? Because I don't engage in the behaviors making it likely to be so. So that is really important. That if you know you're vulnerable, it is just critical to do the right things, which means you want to attack all other all other 10 risk factors. But so if you have a family member who has it, I actually think it's a good idea for you to be tested to see if you have one of the genes that are associated with it. That just increases, oh my goodness, I need to be really serious. I also think people should be scanned. I'm a huge fan of screening people at the age of 50, all of us, just to see, well, what's the health of your brain? We scanned a veteran today who'd had 3 brain injuries where he'd been knocked unconscious and his brain just looked terrible. But the exciting thing is we know it can be better if he does the right thing. But if you have Alzheimer's disease in your family, we know it actually starts in the brain decades before you have any symptoms. So let me say that again. Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia actually happen decades before you have any symptoms. So a woman I diagnosed at 59, she likely had changes in her 20s. So those of you that are waiting to get serious about your health, you don't want to do that. Now is the time. And so I recommend people who have it in their family get scanned by the age of 40 just to see what's going on in your brain. And in my new public television special coming up in a few weeks, I talk about my friend Shailene Johnson, who not only had ADD, which can increase your risk for Alzheimer's disease, she also had a family history of it. And her brain at 46 was not healthy. But she did everything we talk about in the book, and 2 years later, her brain is phenomenally better, which just makes me so happy for her. If you have the gene, we've actually found, so the number one thing to do is be serious about it. Early screening is really important. Exercise is more important for you. So where do people in Australia go? Well, one, order the book. I think there's a SPECT imaging place in Perth, but Southern California is an awesome place too. So if you have the genetic vulnerability, exercise is more important for you, and avoiding a brain injury is critical. They actually did this study on boxers. So boxers who had the ApoE4 gene actually started to show cognitive impairment after their 11th fight. Boxers who did not have that gene didn't show cognitive impairment until after their 30th fight. So having this gene, and I'm just not a fan of contact sports for kids. Just stop it. A developing brain, you're going to put at risk at head injury. It's just not smart. But if you're going to decide to let the child play, I actually think it would be important to test them for the ApoE4 gene. Because if they have it, tennis, golf, table tennis, dancing, track and field, not pole vaulting, swimming, not diving. Do not let them do things that put them at risk for head trauma. Now we're going to talk about head trauma next because that's the H in Bright Minds. Many people, it's very controversial now, actually more controversial now than 5 years ago. People think that Alzheimer's disease is caused by an excessive deposition of plaques in the brain, beta amyloid plaques, tau protein plaques, and controversial. Some people think the plaques may actually be protective against infections and toxins. We're going to get to those too. But if you want to start clearing some of these plaques from your brain, curcumin, vitamin D, green tea, blueberry extract. See, none of this stuff is hard. I mean, this book is loaded with super practical stuff. And from a supplement standpoint, so curcumins, resveratrol, even ashwagandha may be helpful. So I'm really excited. You can still pre-order the book. And if you do, we give you some very special gifts. The link is here. So if you pre-order it on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com or Books A Million, we have all sorts of links for you. We will actually give you the preface and the introduction early, so you can see what it's all about. And I promise you're going to love this book. It's one of my favorite ones I've ever done. And we're also going to give you one of my wife Tana's cookbooks. So 4-color download PDF of Live Longer with the Brain Doctor's Wife, because food is a huge part of, I'm saying that now, right? I was at the White House yesterday. Food is a huge part of getting well. And you'll also get to see a great 2-hour webinar I did with a number of the doctors and coaches at Amen Clinics. You will love it. So I will be back tomorrow, and we'll talk more about memory rescue. Have a great night.